Hi guys, it's Stephanie Janicek. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I was going to make a video about how to say the Star Wars sequels. It wouldn't be that difficult. You wouldn't even really have to be that creative. You just have to do it. And it would be actually kind of simple. Even with the garbage that is The Last Jedi and the bullshit of, you know, Snoke's ridiculous demise, which I'm not going to get into, and Rey Nobody, which in Star Wars lore makes absolutely no sense at all. I thought about this and I put a video on my Facebook Star Wars page, the Star Wars Mos Eisley Cantina. We're a small group. If you want to come and join it, I will add you. Basically very vocal, anti-Disney Star Wars people, which is kind of fun, you know, to hang out with people that, you know, kind of are like-minded. So if you're on Facebook, come on board. I'll bring you on, and you can see who else is out there that might not be on YouTube. So anyway, I was thinking about it, and I was talking to a friend, and this is what I would do. I would bring... In this 9th installment, I would bring Lando back. Since Leia's gone, and I don't know how they're going to handle that, maybe she's just not physically leading the rebellion anymore. Maybe she's retired, maybe she died. I really don't know how they're going to handle that. And I kind of can't wait to see because Kathleen Kennedy's so ridiculous. But anyway, and they're so disrespectful to the old cast that, you know, we'll see, but let's talk about this. So Rey has to go find Lando for whatever reason. She catches up to him on Cloud City. You know, you could have her kind of getting the heebie-jeebies about going there. Now I'm going to preface this with everything that we saw in her Force Awakens Force Vision. Han's sad, kind of mystified looks at her like he recognized her. I mean, if you can't watch that movie and not see that, okay, you can't. So, you know, you have to be able to watch that movie and say, he might know who she is, because I really don't know anybody who's just even a casual movie goer that didn't think she's his daughter or they're related. There's something about her he recognizes, they're related. So I'm prefacing this on everything we saw in The Force Awakens, and I'm going to add how you could fix the bullshit that is The Last Jedi. So let's go on. What we have here going on, she goes to Cloud City to find Lando come up with a reason. And Lando meets up with her, and he kind of gives her the same kind of, he feels like he knows who she is. And he kind of says, so, gee, have I seen you before? And she said, no, I've never been to Cloud City in my life. And he's just kind of looking at her. So they sit down, maybe at a bar, maybe at a casino somewhere, and have a conversation. And she asks him, you know, how did Han lose the Millennium Falcon? No one's ever said anything. And Lando says, you know, tells her, well, Han lost it because he was so frantically looking for his girl. And, you know, she's like, what girl? What, you know, what girl? And Lando proceeds to say, Han and Leia had a daughter, a pretty little thing named Qi'ra. She was born after Ben went to the academy, and she was his pride and joy. He doted on her. And when she was 5, Leia, you know, decides that in order to keep her safe from Snoke, that she would, and to get her training early so the dark side wouldn't be such a tempt for her, so tempting to her, that, you know, they would send her to the academy because she's strong in the Force. And so Ray's like, well, they've never said a word about a daughter. Luke never said anything about a niece. Leia's never told me anything about a daughter. And Han definitely did not. And Lando goes, well, Luke wouldn't. Leia probably will when she feels she can. And Han couldn't say her name. And so Rey, now curious, with a funny look on her face, asks what happened. And Lando says that Rey was abducted by Kylo Ren at the academy, and she disappeared. All right. And, you know, Rey's like, you know, I wrote all this out, and for some reason, my computer won't let me get to it, which is really kind of maddening. But anyway, it would be a thing where, you know, Lando leans kind of back in his chair and he goes, well, Rey from Jakku, Rey with no last name, you've stumbled on to quite a tragic tale, haven't you? Because now Rey understands why Han lost the Falcon. All right, and gets an answer of why he kept looking at her in that, you know, way, and why maybe even Chewbacca is taken to her. She still is not quite sure. But when Lando says a pretty little thing named Kira, that kind of, you know, she's kind of like, you know, the familiarity of the name just kind of strikes her. So she goes back to the Falcon. Lando offers her a place to stay, and she's like, no, I feel more comfortable, more at home on the Falcon. And Lando kind of chuckles to himself and says, well, you know, be my guest, I'll see you in the morning. So he leaves, she goes on the Falcon and falls asleep in the bunk by behind the hollow chest table, behind the table there. And she wakes up in the middle of the night hearing a man call out the name Kira. Now, the way I would do it, you would recognize the voice. All right. It wouldn't be Obi-Wan, it wouldn't be Luke, it wouldn't be Yoda, it wouldn't be Lord Santeca, it wouldn't be Qui-Gon Jinn. It'd be Han Solo. And she gets up, she grabs her blaster, grabs her lightsaber, and goes to the cockpit because that's where she thinks the voice is coming from, but it's not. So she looks around the ship and then ends up. Now I know schematics of the Falcon show that it doesn't have a captain's cabin, but I really, really think in order to tell the story the right way, you almost have to have Han have a private area, maybe one he made for himself, you know, out of the main area, the living area, that main living area, where you saw everybody kind of, you know, where the computer screen is, you know, where Luke trained with the probe and the helmet and his lightsaber with Obi-Wan, you know, a place for him, the captain of the ship should have his own cabin. So, and Rey for some reason has never gone into that place. It's like she doesn't feel like it's her place to do that. So she starts approaching the cabin. And as she approaches, every step, the name Kira being called out gets louder, more frantic, more fearful. And the door zips open, whoosh, it opens. She sees Han Solo himself sitting on the cot with his elbows on his knees, leaning forward as an old man, as the old man that she met, with his hands on elbows on his knees, looking at an old cabinet, hands, you know, kind of folded out in front of him, He reaches under this metal desk that he's got and grabs and has a key in his hand. He goes to open it. He goes to open it and it's Rey wakes up and or kind of comes out of it and he's gone. She actually feels like she saw him staring at that he was literally leading her back there. So she's kind of mystified for a minute, but the light's on in the cabin, and that wasn't right. So we could have safely assumed that he led her to go to look at inside the cabinet, all right? This whole thing in Cloud City is leading up to what she finds in the cabinet. So she sits on the bed in the exact same position he was. Elbows on knees, leaning forward, hands out, kind of folded in front of him, staring at the cabinet. She reaches underneath the desk and finds the key and opens up the cabinet. And then we have flashbacks. Everything she brings out is a flashback. It's his story. It's him telling her who he is, his relationship with Leia, Ben, and Kira. Okay? So he pulls out a white shimmer silk cowl, like the one Leia wore in A New Hope. And you see flashbacks of that relationship, not from The Empire Strikes Back, but from A New Hope. You see, from his point of view, what he saw. Then, he pulls out a red ribbon or something like that. And there's another thing from him and Leia's relationship. The argument they have on, something about Ord Mantell, and then the argument that they have about it, and from The Empire Strikes Back. And you could rotoscope these scenes. And then there's a piece of carbonite. Now, did he throw it up? Where'd it come from? He had it in there. The moment she touches it, she realizes torture, imprisonment in carbonite, and being rescued by Leia. Okay? And that is, could all be rotoscoped, flashbacked in. From being tortured on Scangrid and the steam coming up before the carbonite, and the fear of that, and then coming out of the carbonite like blind, almost like a newborn baby. Okay, so you get that. Then she reaches in and grabs some other things, something that has to do with Ben. Maybe a toy soldier, maybe something like that meant his son. And, she hears things like Leia say, "I wish we knew where he came from, because then we could understand him better." And Han says, "Look, Luke doesn't know where he came from. We'll likely never know. But, sweetheart, all we can do is do the best we can." And that is her first clue and she sees a little boy playing. And that is her first clue to that Ben Solo might not be who she thinks he is. And who he says he is. And he might know, all right? You can actually make it that when she confronts him, that he's going to have to confront a real truth about himself that, he is going to have to face, okay? And it's not the kid thing, the childish thing. It's who he really is, his identity. So we've got that. And then she pulls out a pink hair ribbon or something like that, something that would be from a little girl. And she gets these memories of following her dad around the Falcon, of riding on his shoulders, being swept up in his arms when he comes home, and all the rest of the stuff, and how much, they really loved each other, okay? And that would be really beautiful and really powerful. And you could do kind of these shadowy flashback visions to where it is a memory, but it's a memory the way we actually remember, these sepia-toned, sort of mauve kind of things that but it's real, okay? Then she reaches in and grabs a Wookiee doll. And this is where the end of her Force back vision from The Force Awakens really comes and fills in. Han saying to Leia, and Luke, I'm not Force sensitive. You two have already made your decision. I'm just her father. And he walks away. And she sees herself playing with a Wookiee doll that he had just given her. All right. In the grass somewhere. And you see him sitting in the background same stance, elbows on knees, watching her. And what you get a sense is he's not happy at all with what's going on, because he just doesn't, it's something about this is not, clicking for him anymore. And so then, we get to the academy, the dead kids, she's in the rain, she gets rescued from being murdered by that Knight of Ren and being carried away. And as she's being carried away, you see the Millennium Falcon. You see the landing ramp come down. You see two men and a Wookiee come charging out. And she's screaming, Papa, Papa, help me, save me, save me. And he's yelling, Kira, Kira. You could just see this all happening. And then she's on Jakku. And then when she gets on the ship, the guy in the mask pulls off his mask. And she doesn't really recognize him. But Jedi mind wipe. He's her family. He lies to her. Ta-da! And that's how I would save the Star Wars sequels. Because then you have Han losing the Falcon, trying to find Rey, frantically flying from one place to another, trying to find Rey. And Lando tells Rey, the last time I saw Han, he was a broken man. He wasn't the same man I knew 30 years ago. He wasn't the same man I knew 5 years before that. Losing the girl unmanned him. And when I said, why don't you go home? He basically said to me, as Lando, that I made Leia a promise I'd bring our girl home. And I failed. I lost the Falcon. I can't go home like this. I can't go home. I can't go to her a failure. I'm not who she thinks I am. And it's really sad. I want it to be sad because I want people to understand. This is a guy that had nothing, okay, when he was growing up. He was able to give 2 kids something and it was torn away from him, okay? And, and this is a big deal, okay, for Star Wars. So you have this. And when Rey realizes that she's Kira, it changes the whole thing. So now she's not Rey nobody. She's Rey somebody, okay? And who is Kylo Ren then? Okay? And this is what I would do to solve that. Han and Leia didn't think that Leia could carry a child full term. The last child she has before Kira shows up is a baby born dead. They were going to name him Ben. Luke shows up at around the exact same time with his newborn infant and gives him Han and Leia to raise as their child, their son. They name him Ben. Ta-da! And where did Luke get this kid? He bought him off of DJ. So then you have Rey and Finn going off to find DJ to get the answers to who Kylo Ren really is. So when Rey confronts him, she has all the cards in her hands. All right? And that is how I would save the sequels. That is how I would satisfy the real Star Wars fans, those people who actually love it. And if these Reylos got pissed off, I really wouldn't give a damn. I mean, go back and watch Twilight. And Luke it would actually exonerate Luke. All right. He couldn't kill his father. He thought about killing his nephew, but then you find out he really wasn't his nephew. Okay? Does it make it worse? Does it make it better? At least it kind of gives him... There's a little more understanding of why he thought the way he thought. Okay? And it basically saves his story, too, I think. He failed, but he really... you understand him better. So anyway, I hope y'all like this idea. If I thought Disney Film would take it and run with it, I would give it to them, and I would not even take money. Just save the goddamn movie. Save the goddamn franchise, okay? That's all I'd ask. So this is Steph, signing out. See you around the galaxy. And if you want, go to the Facebook Star Wars Mos Eisley Cantina. I am there all the time. I go back and forth. I will add you so we can continue this discussion longer. This is Steph signing out.